So talk to us about what's the case that we did that you did 150 and there's another 500 behind it. I forgot her first name.
Yeah, Wendy Decker. So Wendy and
I'm gonna
Steve are retired, 60 and 65, and they have roughly 1.1 million in assets. A few different places the money spread out in,
let me.
and
Would it be helpful to everybody if I brought up the retirement score report?
all right. So you should be seeing Wendy and Steve here.
Yep.
So what would be helpful for me to share here? Just their profile, pretty much.
Yeah, I think just their profile, but the most important thing, I think, show how the things that you're talking about, like, look, obviously the score is going to reflect, we want to see what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
But how did you talk to them to get them to move the 150 and to move the future 500? The things that you're talking about in big picture, hone in on Wendy and Steve.
Sure. So part of that beginning part of talking to them was learning that they want to move from their home in New Jersey. They have a few different places they might want to go to. They're going to go spend around a month to 2 months in each place, living in an Airbnb to find out where they want to put roots in and actually buy a house or potentially live long term. And so that's all happening right now. Their biggest stress was understanding what they had in terms of income and if they could afford to retire or if they needed to keep working to achieve what they want. And so learning all that, it really gave me a big indication. A lot of where their assets are at aren't income necessarily. So they're all lump sum situations. They do have Social Security that they can tap into, but otherwise, he's living off a severance. They're living off a severance currently, which is going to end soon. So how can they position where they're at most effectively moving forward? So one of the things that ultimately she shared, when you look at their overall assets, this variable annuity has been out of surrender period for 4 years and it's just been sitting where it's at. So we talked about the whole picture, kind of what existed. He has an option with this 200,000 to either take it as a lump sum, keep it where it's at and create an income, or move it and do whatever he wants with it, right? These other options here. But when she told me, oh, I got this 130 and it's just been sitting there, I should have moved it a few years ago. That helped me understand where a first starting point was. That was a point where they were ready to make a decision anyway.
Let me interject. Let me just interject real quick. There's a whole idea about understanding the emotional part of what people deal with each asset. So what Peter just said, what screamed at me, is he realized that the first piece of low-hanging fruit was that variable annuity, because he listened and he talked about the different products and services and how she felt about them. So even he had the right thing in mind, and he said to me, he got that 130, but now he's going to go back for more because there's more in terms of helping them solve their problem.
Right, because they have an income issue. They don't know where it's coming from. So if they didn't have someone like us to help them, they would just be pulling money out of their assets willy-nilly, saying, oh, I got 75 here, let's pull the 75 out and we'll start spending it. And when it's gone, we'll pull more out of the net bucket. Right? That's what their concept of efficiency would be. So what I did during this process was go line item by line item, and I asked them, tell me about this account. Where did it come from? Is it earmarked for anything? Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing with these funds? Understanding what their idea is before I put an idea in their head. And so we honed in on that VA as an opportunity early on in the process. And then they have these projected income rates, but they don't really know this to be true. So I'm still waiting on more information. But this is what they ultimately gave as a initial concept on their Social Security, with the goals of 80,000 in income. So we got their initial rating if they don't do anything, leave everything the way that it is. And then we talk about introducing the volatility buffer. So this is where overall I shared with them, this 500 can come from different buckets of money. It doesn't necessarily have to come from their 401k where they have 745, and it can be put into different buckets. We talked about laddering. We talked about some different options. I said, listen, generally speaking, I just took it from one bucket as a concept. This is just conceptual. This is a calculator that gives us a result based on what we put in there. So aside from making it too complicated, that's what I see. for the long term. It's roughly 40 to 50% of your overall portfolio, putting into a safe money option, knowing you'll never lose a penny. And that takes you to an A score. How does that make you feel? Knowing that you have an A score with these changes, how does that make you feel about being able to sell your house and move? How does that make you feel about being able to start having some of these dreams come true? And so
That's
overall,
awesome.
she made it really clear it was something that she wanted to do something with. They also made it clear, Steve said, for instance, I'm not a guy who's going to do everything all at one time. I want to take, bite-sized pieces and see how it goes and get to know you better. And so we agreed together that the best place to start would be with that variable annuity and moving it to something that was guaranteed to never lose another dollar.
Beautiful. So, and you'll get the 500 into the volatility buffer. As we always talk to everybody about, it takes time. But, for me here, and I'd love some input from the group, anybody has any questions, anything like that for Peter. But what I hear and I love is that he's executing on the things that we always preach, right? And I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but I'm going to drill it in. I'm going to drill it. The reality of what he did is very simple. He spent 15, 20 minutes understanding what was important to them. I loved how he rattled off all the things that are important to them. The moving from where was it? Jersey?
Yeah.
And by the way, Peter's from Vegas, right?
I live in Vegas. I grew up in New York, so it was easy for me to resonate with them and say, yeah, it's about time you get out of there.
But he learned, what was important to them, and then he just showed them. Then he understood each asset and what it meant to them, and then he showed them how their score could go up based on repositioning to a safer, a more safe program with the volatility buffer that he explained to them in the previous chart. And then Peter, what was the how does that make you feel? Like, I love it. You're using the verbiage, So walk us back there a little bit as well, Peter. Is like, think about when you showed them, he said, he came back to you and he said, I'm a little bit, I take my time. So did you say, because this is what I would have done. I said, look, why don't we start small? Just get comfortable with each other. The variable annuity is something that we can protect a little bit, reposition that, and then go, like, is that how you positioned it? Is that how the sale went?
I asked the question prior to that of where they would want to start. So where would you want to start? I let them know that I knew that I could help them and that it seemed like it would be great to work with them. And that I thought we should work together because I knew I could help them accomplish their goals. But I turned it back and said, where would you like to start? What makes, the most sense for you, for where you're at?
Yeah, I love it. And well, the terminology that I use always is, what would you like the next steps to be?
Yeah.
Okay. But so anybody have any input? We're going to go to Trip in a few minutes. But anybody have any questions, any insight? Again, just to repeat for everybody, Peter has received year to date 10 fact finders, 4 of them, one of which is this case was submitted. I mean, he's doing an outrageous closing ratio, which I love. And what I love even more is that he's saying that he's using the techniques that we all talk about. And he's even taking it to another level with really helping them like envision transformation. But it's that connection from the products to their dreams and wants. And I think he's mastering that art of connecting those dots. Okay. Awesome. Anybody have any questions at all for Peter?
I see
Eric, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is my first time on this session here. Is this done at this time every week?
No, every month. Second Tuesday of every month.
Okay, at this time?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Pete, how many slides do you go through on that? I haven't given a presentation yet. I haven't received a lead yet. I figure it'll just be trial and error for at least the first 1 or 2 goes. Do you go through the full presentation, every slide, one by one, or is there's like 3 or 4 that you spend majority of your time on that you really harp on?
No, I literally do exactly so the way that I trained the video, the slide process is what helps me has, regardless of what the medium is, everything that Eric said in the training videos, and mind you, I did this a year ago, but I wrote down word for word what he said, pausing and stopping the video. And then, sorry, I'm just letting people into the room. And then after I had that script, I practiced it, and that's how I learned the script. And I go slide by slide by slide. I never skip a slide. What I do, or what I've done, is just tweak the story to fit their narrative, what it is they're trying to accomplish, what it is they want to be doing, what their life interests are, and then be able to connect the science and math to reality, to their reality.
Awesome. Yep. That is so awesome.
And I don't skip. The only slides I don't show are the ones at the end that show all the numbers that I don't even necessarily understand what it's saying.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
And so, and you've had 10 leads and you've closed 4 of them. Is that right?
Yeah.
10 fact finders, not leads.
Yeah. Fact find. Yeah, 10.
10 fact finders, 4 of them.
That's incredible, man. That's really, really great.
Yeah. So I'm going to say something. When Peter went through this, he said he wrote down everything. I have taken it since he did that. I would have saved him a lot of time because Cynthia just asked about the script. We wrote it out. It's on your in your marketing resource section of the thing. Everything that I say. There's a long story and a short story. So, what I love hearing is Peter jumped in, he dove in and he just mastered it. And I think, that's what it takes, everybody, to be successful. Mastering your craft. He's a legend.
Eric, and on Thursday, we're launching the new marketing resource hub. So everyone should try to attend the enterprise study group on Thursday at 5. And they're going to be able to.
And Darren and Bella created and Reese, this marketing resource section, which basically makes it just easier to find and access all the things that Peter's talking about.
What I have, from a learning perspective, it's great. I love that you put the resource there, and it's awesome that it's there. Part of the process of writing is also how you internalize the memory. So it's a process of actually handwriting instead of typing, and it actually print on the brain. So
fair enough.
For what it is, but what also happens during that writing process is it creates an opportunity where your style is going to come through. I use Eric's template. I'm almost word for word. And to go back, I do ask them, what do you think the next best steps are from here? That sentence. But overall, I did suggest to them, well, hey, this variable annuity is out of surrender. I shared with them typically what happens to policies out of surrender is they go by the wayside. They don't have the different benefits that the policies had when they were in surrender. And so let's get that into a better place for you. And it was a no-brainer for them.
Awesome.
How much training how much
product you're selling, Pete?
What's that?
Can I ask which product you generally recommend that you're using?
I would say there isn't a general one, but I write across multiple carriers. These 2 particular cases were written with Athene and North American. The Athene program did not have the additional bonus with the charge. It was just the bonus without a charge. For the other client, it was the bonus with the charge. And so it really depends on someone's liquidity needs. It depends on everything, all those different parameters. But as a fiduciary, I feel very, I feel like it's important that I make sure I find the best thing for every single person. So I don't necessarily have one program or product that I write with. A little bit across all over the place.
How much premium have you turned in from these fact finders that you've closed so far? What's total amount of premium?
These last 2 this past week were $400K basically. And then the other 2, I'm trying to think who the other 2 clients were.
One was 300. I think it was
350, 350. So 350, 200, 147, and maybe another 200. So maybe
200.
900,000 total.
Yep.
How much?
900,000.
900. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Pete, Sloan Gunter out here in Texas. So this was your first meeting with them that what you just went through with us. That was your first meeting with them. And did you close them on the 1:30 at the end of this first meeting?
So the next step is to call where their money's at and make sure that before we make any changes, we know everything about what they currently have. So do the carrier call and understand what it is we're actually moving, what their process is, what their requirements are for moving that money. That way, when I go to do the application, it's seamless and I have all the questions answered that we need. And so,
just so I clarify, Peter, just so I clarify, this meeting that you went on, so you opened it up, you noticed the low hanging fruit, and then after that you said, let's call the carrier and just make sure all this, and then you call the carrier with them.
Yep, we did a 30-minute phone call 4 days later, when the carrier, was open during business hours. Did that phone call and then set up the appointment to do the application, submitted the application, and it got approved.
Yep.
All right, so let me recap this. So you agreed at the end of this first meeting, this IFW meeting, that, hey, okay, we're going to call, next Thursday at 2:00. Y'all set a time to do that. You three-wayed them into that phone call and got it done.
Cool. So did the first IFW meeting. At that point, we decided the best next step to do is to just verify everything we understand about their current program. That's the phone call we do a few days later. We verified everything with the current carrier, set up the meeting for the next application, submit the application, and that was it. So a total of like 2.5 hours I spent with the client before we submitted the app.
And then after you do your retirement roadmap, you go with the illustration. You don't set up a second meeting to go over the illustration, or do you go through it right then and there?
I didn't do an illustration until after I had all the information from the carrier.
Okay, so after the retirement roadmap, you didn't go into the Athena illustration right away.
No, because before I talked to them, I didn't know where the meeting was going to go. So I wouldn't spend time trying to map out a product without knowing what the best solution is.
But when they see their score and you say, what would you like the next steps to be? And they say, yeah, this sounds good. You didn't show them an illustration prior. I mean, they just said, this sounds good without seeing anything?
Yep.
What they were feeling like sounded good was a volatility buffer.
Right.
Okay.
That's the whole thing. You're selling the concept of the volatility buffer a lot of times.
Yeah, but I thought, okay. I thought that at the end of it, they would say, okay, how does this work? What am I buying?
Yeah.
And versus let me sign up for something without knowing what I'm buying.
They absolutely say the first thing. Okay, so they say the first thing. What is it? What is it that this would be? Well, the first step is let's call your current carrier, find out that we know everything's possible. I mean, maybe this isn't the case for these particular people, right? But I've had people that are in service. They can't move their money yet, right? So these different things, where your money is at, where they're at in their horizon, what they're eligible for. Maybe they're retired, but they're under 59 and a half, right? So there's different parameters. You just verify, and you just let them know. For me, it's a matter of making them understand that I'm not in a rush to sign them up for something. First step first, let's confirm we know what we know is to be true. After that, then we can move forward and with the next steps from there.
So let me ask you a follow-up question. Okay, let's say forget the variable annuity. That not everyone's going to have a variable annuities. People know what if they have IRAs, 401k savings. So you go through your retirement roadmap. They know what they got. It's nothing too complicated. When do you go through an illustration? Do you go through it right at the end of that presentation? Or do you say, hey, let's set up a second call and let me show you how this works? So how do Eric, maybe you can answer this. How do most people transition to showing them what they're going to buy?
Yeah, exactly. So Peter, I guess what he's asking, which is a good question, is kind of like, you show them the volatility buffer, you show them increasing the score, you show them what, and then they say, you say, what is next step? What would you like the next steps to be? Do you show them the illustration maybe on that when they say, I'd like to know more? Or do you always say, let's set up another meeting? Like, or is it just depend on how you feel things are at?
So I'll never show an illustration on the day we did the IFW. It's a long meeting anyway.
Okay.
45 minutes to an hour. So that would never happen.
Okay.
But with their permission, if my team and I can go and find what's the most competitive option to suit the needs we just outlined, and I'll rattle those off, then would you like us to do that? And then I get their commitment to wanting us to show them what the best options are.
So it sounds like he takes his time and doesn't show the illustration right there, Jacob.
Yeah, because if you see your score, they say, okay, how is this possible? Then it's probably
his style is like, oh, it's possible. Let's see what you have. I'll check out the best options for you. But he's like selling them and using the takeaway a little bit, I think.
Yeah, there's no rush. There's no rush. And so it's really a matter of saying, well, the next steps would be, if you'd like my team and I to find, every state's different, to find what the best options are to accomplish your goals. And I rattle those goals off instead of saying that.
Yep. Awesome. I'm gonna jump to Trip. Peter, you're the man. Thank you for donating your time. Really appreciate it very much. And on the next study group or the study group after, we'll kind of like see from the 3 that you have left, how many of those 3 do you get? Because if you get 70%, I'm going to have to adjust my numbers.
Yeah, and some of those people are on a different time horizon, right? Some of them are 6 years out. Some of them are, they're trying to get a better idea of where they're at and where they're going. So it's preliminary, but we have that relationship built now, and it's touch points.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter. I know you have another meeting that you got to go to, so thank you.
You got it. I made you the host again, so you should be good there. All
right, cool. And then now I'd like to introduce Trip. Now, Trip has a better closing ratio than Peter, but he's only had one case. He's had one appointment, and he closed it, and he actually turned, I think, lemons into lemonade.
A whiskey sour in this case.
Yeah. Trip, why don't you give the background on your experience and so forth in this case?
So I'm pretty brand new to the program. I just got my 2nd month invoice last week or earlier this week. And I'm doing the full, leads, call center, concierge. I did not expect to get a fact finder yet, but got one in the 1st month, which was cool. So it was exciting. Got the information, got on the appointment with a lady, and had to really verify a lot of information. And basically what the situation with her was, and what her pain point, a couple of years back, she became a widow, and her parents passed away as well. So there was some inheritance money, and some local advisor sold her a steaming pile of annuities. We all come across other people's work, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good, but I couldn't for the life of me figure out, what this guy was thinking when he did that stuff to her. And she was already upset about him. So she had these annuities she didn't fully understand. They weren't making money. She didn't understand how they fit into her plan. She had another advisor in her ear trying to get her to surrender these annuities, which have like 20+% surrender charges, and just put the money in the market.
Jesus.
And she, right, exactly. So, I'd explained to her, there's a couple points to the story I'm going to be telling here about this case. One is the fact that, you've got an insurance person that does only insurance, and then you've got a market guy that does only, and they just want your assets so they can make money. And there's nothing wrong with the insurance part. There's nothing wrong with the market part, but they have to work together correctly. And that's sort of wwhere the magic, that's sort of where, the magic happens when you combine it correctly, and get it all under one roof. So, part of my point is going to be is that, it's important to be able to, look at the whole picture, just not one piece of the picture. Anyway, to make a short story long, I got the statements for the annuities, and didn't realize, we thought it was going to be pretty simple annuity replacement, but the surrender charges were really, really steep. And, initially looking at it, you're like, there's nothing I can do with this, so, but I got creative. And actually, if you can make me host, I'll share the numbers.
Yes.
Because the other point is, I think the software is what sold this deal. It was a 2 appointment close. Never showed her an illustration. She has no idea what products we're going to use, but it's going to be like between a $160,000, $200,000 annuity, and I'll show you why. Am I able to do this now?
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. The way I tweaked this, the software doesn't allow it to go into a report, so I have to dynamically show her how this works. So In her income section, one of the things that made absolutely no sense is that there were, a series of 3 smaller annuities, roughly $50,000, and then a larger one that was more like $200,000. And that's a non-qualified annuity. And for some reason, this guy sold it to her with an income rider on it. She's not retiring for 6 years from today. And she's been collecting the income rider, dipping into her retirement savings before retirement instead of letting that money bake and maximize her opportunities. So if you look in here, that's this right here. It's a $200,000 annuity collecting $10,000 a year. You can see it's, here until forever. But the problem was that, and the other thing is I had to mess around and tweak her. I had to set expectations on her retirement income goals to make it work. But if we look at this, that puts her at a 0. All right. Now, check this out. This is pretty cool. So what I did, again, these annuities have steep surrender charges. But I said, what if she stops at income? I got her to buy and she's like, I don't know why, I don't need that income. Then why are you dipping into your retirement savings, right? So what I did was I ran some numbers. I said, what if I took that surrender value, even though it's significantly below what the actual market value is, put it into another annuity, income annuity, guaranteed income annuity. She likes the guarantees, and deferred it for 6 years. And what happened was there's one product, the best product out there for that scenario for her. If she took that surrender value, let it bake for 6 years, then in 6 years when she retires, it would be more like $23,000 per year for life. Okay. So what I did then is I changed that $10,000 to $23,000, and I had it starting when she retires in 6 years. Recalculate, and lo and behold, guess what happens? She's at 100% now.
Wow.
Now, here's the thing. I mean, I'm going to have to make sure I can get the carrier to, accept the replacement. I'm going to have to spell a good story. Even if not, we can just surrender it to, since I'm an investment advisor, I can transfer it into, create an account at Schwab, transfer it in, and then transfer it out to the carrier if need be. But I think we can build a story for this replacement just based upon that. But, I think that the story, had to get creative with what we were going to do with this. But I think the story of just watching yourself going to I'm hopping on a plane, I know it's going into the Pacific Ocean, and I ain't going to survive. I'm going to land in Hawaii in 6 hours. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
100%. No problem whatsoever. So that's important. Now, the other important thing, she had this insurance guy that, like I said, sold her all these annuities that didn't make sense for her. Then she had the market guy that was trying to get her to take huge penalties to get out of them, to put them in the market. It'd take her years just to get back to what her balances were. And I don't know how many people on here are insurance only or are, dually licensed, but it's become so much easier to close business when you can clean the plate and bring it all under one roof and make everything work well together.
Yeah, and I was going to actually give you a plug, Trip. One of the things that we have is a relationship with Trip and his RIA that we could actually, I think it's very important if you're an insurance only person that you at least have a relationship with somebody that you can trust, that is going to work with you on the sale. So Trip is at an RIA that pays a referral fee to the IFW, which we split with the insurance only financial professional. And you can see Trip is really smart and a good, call a spade a spade. He's creative, he's smart, and he does some really nice things on the asset management side. So if you ever want to work together with him, you could do it where he just only focuses on the assets and just complements your sale. Or frankly, if you wanted to include him and do the whole well-rounded thing and share the whole case, he would be happy to do that as well.
Yeah, and just to expand that a little bit, yeah, we're very sort of boutique forward-thinking RIA. We don't do cookie-cutter portfolios, and I replace those all day long. From name a firm, Morgan Stanley, Ameriprise, by Edward Jones. These guys are just like throwing people in these cookie cutter portfolios that really underperform constantly. So we run an analysis on it. We're doing stuff with combining strategies, some of which are proprietary, some of which are just little known, it's working really well. So, and the arrangement that we have is unlicensed people are able to get a piece of that advisory pie through what we call a solicitors agreement. That's something that, Eric can talk, was just talking about. But I would say this, if anyone is interested in just learning a little bit more about, how we manage money and just picking my brain about, if it might make sense to form a relationship to close more business and make more money, I'm going to drop my Calendly into the links here, into the chat. Just book a 15-minute thing and I'll walk you through anything you want. And if not, no hard feelings. But
Good.
like I said, having that, being able to clean the plate and have everything under one roof, it's magic. Because I went
100%.
I went insurance only for a while, and it's I don't know, it just doesn't work as well.
Yep. I think that having a partnership is very important. You don't want to be, again, I'm not saying that everybody needs to get their Series 65. I'm not saying that at all. But what I definitely am saying is that if you're insurance only, you definitely want to have a relationship with somebody that can speak intelligently about the other part of the portfolio. 50% should go in the annuity, 40 to 50%, 50 to 40% should be in the asset management category. And you don't want to, you want to be a partner in that. And that's why we created that relationship with Redwood, because we know we have a lot of individuals that are just insurance only, and we can do that and facilitate that. So thank you so much for that, Trip. Any questions for Trip at all? Go ahead.
Trip, Henry Levine, how are you?
Great, how are you?
I don't see your I don't see your contact info up here on the chat, the meeting chat.
I dropped my Calendly link in there. It's up a couple. I'll put it in again.
Okay.
And
is it on your LinkedIn by any chance?
My Calendly?
Yeah, your link. Yeah.
If you want to, look, I'm going to put my email in too. If you want to send me an email, I can send you a link as well. How's that sound?
Okay. Sounds good.
We'll do that right now. And
Thanks,
by the way,
Henry.
Henry's a great name. My firstborn son is a Henry.
Nice. And I don't know if you guys can see it. Gene, you asked me before to include the background for IFW. If you see it, it's at the top. I put it up there.
I don't see it. I had to join today's session a few minutes late, so I may not be able to see it.
Yeah, but you can see the chat. I don't know, but anybody that wants it, just send me an email. I can send it. I think it really helps having the background. Maybe that's why Peter has a 50% closing ratio. I don't know, but it's certainly nice to have continuum with people so they get comfortable with and feel comfortable. I think that's so important. So Gene, I know you sent me a request for that. I do have it up there, but just in case you can't download it from up there in the chat, send me another email. Anybody else have any questions? I'm trying to think. There is a couple things I'll tease out there that we're working on. Some products that, and I'm not going to give a lot of information because I haven't done my due diligence yet, but I want to share it. Some products that are going to be available that are very not accessible to a lot of people, that we may have the opportunity to do that. And then I'd actually like to know, has anybody ever ran into a concept where you can pay off, it's not doing it through whole life insurance or life insurance, but where you can pay off your mortgage in 7 to 10 years without extra money? I see Bill Eager, you nodded your head like you had heard of that. Has anybody heard of that? Yeah, that's good. What do you guys think about that, Gene? What do you know about it? Because I'm looking at a relationship with them too. I think, on the IFW webinars that we do, if when me and Scott are doing the webinars, if we're able to say, and by the way, and we have like one slide on there that talks about the fact that you could pay off your 30-year mortgage in 7 to 10 years. I think it'll be attractive. I want to do my due diligence, make sure I'm comfortable with it and all that, but it seemed very legit. Anybody have any comments or thoughts about that?
It's an arrangement where you're basically making like 2 payments a month instead of 1. The end result is you're paying a little bit more, but you're getting ahead of the interest.
Right.
And so therefore you can end, it's like instead of a 30-year mortgage, it's like a 15-year mortgage or something of that effect. So it's, you know, it can be good if somebody's in the right situation to capitalize on it.
That's different than what I saw. I mean, yes, you can do it that way, but there's another way to do it. Another company, and I want to say it's United Financial Network or something like that. I'll have to pull it up. I'll pull it up.
That's the one. United Financial Freedom.
I'm in it.
Okay.
So let's have a talk, and I'll tell you all about it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm investigating that. I'm working on a good deal for the IFW. And Gene, do you think it works?
It does work. I've used it. I mean, I've used it with clients. I've used it on my own. Yes, it works.
Awesome.
Unequivocally, it works.
Awesome. That's refreshing to hear because it sounds so exciting. I know we can market the shit out of it. I just know we can market it like crazy. And it's. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you. If you look, I just sent you a link to my Calendly. If you want to schedule a call and talk to me about it, I'll be more than glad to discuss it with you.
Okay, sounds good, guys. Today was a great session. Anybody have any additional insights, comments, thoughts?
I have a quick question. Somebody mentioned about a Thursday, 5 p.m.
Yes.
What is that and how do you get on that?
So Darren will be sending out some reminders and so forth, but ultimately Darren, it's a study group that's more of like an operational study group. And you'll get an information on that, Mike. And what the study group is going to be on is how you can utilize some of the tools that are available that we have. The biggest tool that I want to encourage people to use, and Darren will go through that in more detail, but the biggest thing is we have this unique link that you can invite people that are in your world, not leads from the IFW, but people in your world. You can invite them to the webinar and they will follow the same pathway as a lead for you, meaning if you want to, the concierge will do the fact finder, the call center will call them, and it stays within your dashboard. It doesn't count against your leads. It's just a way for you to leverage the IFW Retirement Score webinar. And Darren's going to talk about how to utilize that. All right. So hope everybody enjoyed it and have a wonderful rest of your evening.